Hi, this is Ray Nicholas with the National Weather Service. I'm the hydrologist here in Missoula, Montana, and we're going to take a look at the flood potential outlook here for this spring and immediately what we're going to be seeing happen really this upcoming weekend. So as I go through this, we'll take a look at the current flood situation for this weekend and then basically the flood potential that we're going to see all the rest of May and June as I go through this presentation. So we've got a rainstorm coming in this weekend. This is a weather story that we've got out on our web page, and we're going to see rainfall occurring across parts of western Montana and parts of north central Idaho. The way this low pressure system is coming in off the coast has been changing on a daily basis. So we know we're going to get rain across western Montana. You know exactly where that heaviest rain is going to be. It seems to be changing a little bit every day. So stay tuned to our website on changes as we go through this. But we do expect some areas to have some pretty good rain, and now, you know, with the warm temperatures we've been having, we're getting snow melt going into most of the streams and rivers across western Montana and north central Idaho. So just looking at a rainfall forecast, this is Sunday going into Monday. And we've got some precipitation amounts on here. And like I said, you know, these could certainly change a little bit depending on how this low pressure system wants to set up and wrap this moisture around the area. Our latest projections show most of the rain up in that northwest Montana area, with, you know, areas in that even a little bit over 1 inch range with precipitation up in that area. As we go farther south, you could see areas even like, you know, down around Butte where you'd be lucky to even get 0.39 inches. Could be less than that. And then over in north central Idaho, it'll range quite a bit. You know, we could have up to 1 inch there, and we could have it, you know, less than half an inch. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how this low pressure system actually takes place. I think the good thing is we're not seeing a lot of high elevation snowmelt yet. It's just low elevation snowmelt, some of the mid elevation snowmelt's coming out. So we're really just starting the progressive runoff process that we're going to be seeing occur here for most of May and June. So this is really just kind of the primer, kind of the set and start of it. So we're not, like I said, we're not expecting a lot of large flooding from this. We're going to see things start to rise up, and we'll highlight a few areas that we're maybe concerned with as far as larger rivers that might get up there closer to the flood stage. And then temperature-wise, you know, like today we're in the 70s. Tomorrow we could be even close to 80 here in Missoula. And so what I've just taken is a snippet of temperature forecast and just showing what we're looking at for here in Missoula. But this can pretty much apply to most of western Montana and north central Idaho, because we're going to see as this rainstorm comes in, temperatures will cool off. And then as we go into that Monday time frame, you know, we could even see some snow up in the mountains. And some of this rainfall that occurs up in the high elevations above 7,000 feet might even be getting absorbed into some of that real high elevation snowpack. So that'll just be more fuel to the fire later on when we start to get into the higher elevation progressive runoff. Some of the lower elevation stuff with this rain will continue to melt out with the rain for this upcoming event this weekend. So as we go into this weekend right now, we put out a hydrologic outlook across all of western Montana and then sections of north central Idaho. And yesterday, you know, it looked like the whole area was going to get hit fairly good with some pretty good intense precipitation. Now it's kind of moving around, so we'll be whittling this down. So as we go through time, even later this afternoon, we'll whittle this down into the areas that we think are going to be getting the heaviest precipitation as far as having this hydrologic outlook out. Not that we couldn't have other areas getting rain, but we're going to go, as we go through time here, try and whittle it down to what areas we think will be getting the heavier rain. So as of now, here's a few of the higher forecasts, and this is based on the latest projections of where that low pressure system is anticipated to send, more of the moisture, especially in those areas where we have low elevation zones. And that area up in the Yak and the Fisher is really, most of the mountains are in a lower elevation zone there. So we do have more low elevation snow melt combined with this area of rain that will bring up the Fisher and the Yak rivers. Whether they get up into like the Yak into that moderate level, it just depends on if this rain does actually set up and give them the majority of that rain. So we'll keep an eye on that. These forecasts could certainly change as we go, into tomorrow. So keep a track on that, as well as some of the other forecasts across our area. And then as we move farther south, we've got the Clark Fork River above Missoula coming up just under the flood level. If we don't get that heavier precip up in the Blackfoot and headwaters of the Clark Fork, which right now it doesn't look like we are, those forecasts could actually be lower than that when we look at it tomorrow, and the same with the Bitterroot. So once again, we'll just have to keep updating these forecasts as this low pressure system maneuvers its way through the area. So that was kind of a synopsis of what we're looking at for this weekend, and we can go into more detail on that once I finish up with where we are overall for the rest of the season. So as we go into the rest of the snowmelt season, we see we've got tons of snow up there, 170% of the norm for the Bitterroots and the Clark Forks, the Blackfoot region. So still tons of snow up there. Some of those snowtail sites are still showing near record highs. So that's a lot of water to still come out, and that'll be happening in May and June. Flathead's at 167%. Same there. It's a lot of snow still yet to come out. And as we go over into the Idaho, they're not as bad over there. 146% in the clear waters, and I'm really not expecting that to be a big problem in the clear waters. That's all going to depend on big rain events as to whether they have any real flood potential, and the same in the salmon drainage. So going in forward into May and June, we're still forecasting this situation where we have a lot of confidence that the Clark Fork River above Missoula is going to exceed its flood stage. This rain this weekend certainly isn't going to help the situation, because that's just going to prime the rivers, and bring them up to the point now where they're going to be high enough to where when we start adding in more snow melt, that's just going to bring them even higher. So we'll have this rain event, then we'll get a little bit of a reprieve as we go into next week with those cooler temperatures. But as we look into the extended outlook, May and June is going to be real good high water, and Clark Fork above Missoula exceeding the flood stage is looking like a certainty, and then it's just a matter of how high it goes above that flood stage as we go into the months of May and June. And the Flathead River, Columbia Falls, same there, almost certain to exceed its flood stage, and then it's just a matter of how high will it get. The Bitterroot River here in Missoula, I feel the same about that. We've got a little bit lower percentage chances, but there's a lot of snow in the Bitterroots, and that will, I think, almost certainly exceed the flood stage, and then just a matter of how high it'll get. Swan River, a lot of snow in that drainage. The Bitterroot River up at Darby, that I think that'll easily get up there too. And then the Clark Fork of Plains, that's going to be taking all the water from the Clark Fork as well as the Flathead drainage once it makes its way through Flathead Lake, and that's going to be pretty hard to sneak away from any kind of a flood on the Clark Fork of Plains. And then as we go down below Missoula, the Clark Fork is going to be running really high, and down through that lower section of the Clark Fork before it meets up with the Flathead. So in summary, It's flooding is expected across most of western Montana this spring, and we may get a touch of it to start off the season here this weekend.